For today's activity, we will be doing the experiment on enzymatic activity, which is the papaya fruit and the protein source meat. Okay, so here we are taking the weight of each portion, the portions A, B, C. I used my hands here in taking the meats, but I made sure that my hands are washed properly and the meats are washed properly, and the tools and equipments that are used are also sanitized. We are making sure that the weight of each portion are the same, or their weights are precise or close to each other, so that the aim of this experiment or goal will be successful. So in making the papaya puree, we can see that after washing and peeling the papayas, we cut it into small pieces so that it can blend properly into small pieces or in semi-liquefied form, or until it becomes a puree. So here, we will boil the pureed papaya. We will take a portion until 5 minutes. We will wait until 5 minutes until it boils. As you can see, I am mixing the papaya because it sticks on the pan. Even in low heat, as you can see, there are still remains of papaya, the brownish part. As you can see, after 5 minutes, we will set aside the boiled papaya and let it cool down. So here is the unheated papaya puree. We will add it to the sample A later on. Here I am putting the unheated papaya puree on the sample A. Here I am going to massage the unheated papaya puree to the portion A of meat. As you can see, I submerged the meat on the unheated papaya for the best results. Here we will use the sample B and use the heated papaya puree to massage and submerge the sample B meat. As you can see, we did nothing on sample C because it is the control sample, which means we won't add anything on it, just plain portion of meat. We will just let it sit for 1 hour. After an hour, we'll fry the sample A, which is the unheated papaya puree and the meat. We will observe the frying process. All meat are fried with the same length of time. Next is the sample B, which is the heated puree and the meat. In here, we can see that the meat are expanded. Next is the sample C, which is the control sample in which the meat has no additives. As you can see, I am pinching the portions of meat to see and observe the texture and the tenderness on how the heated and unheated papaya puree affect on the meat. On sample A, after an hour of letting the meat sit on the unheated puree, the meat becomes a little pale compared to its original color, and it is a little easier to tear and becomes a little tender and softer. As for the sample B, after an hour, the meat becomes pale and it becomes tender and softer than the others, that the flesh can be easily to torn. For the sample C, after an hour, the meat stays the same, the color and its texture are the same as it is before an hour passed. After frying, the sample A meat is a little tender compared to meat C, but it didn't meet the satisfaction of the expected tenderness of the meat. For sample B, after frying, the meat is tender and it is easy and fast to cook. The meat is really tender and it has no distinct smell. For sample C, after frying, the meat is just the same like the typical fried meat, which is really tough and really hard to tear. After observing and experimenting, the meat that is most tender is the meat from sample B, in which the heated puree was added compared to all of the samples. Sample B has the best results in terms of tenderness, since the main goal of papaya puree is as tenderizer. The least tender is the sample C, which is the control sample. The meat in sample C didn't exposed on any heated or unheated puree. Papaya contains enzymes that break down proteins. They can be used to tenderize meat before cooking. This enzyme is called papain. Papain is a cysteine protease acquired from the latex of papaya plant. Papain is a highly efficient enzyme causing significant degradation of myofibrillar as well as collagen proteins. As the temperature increases, so does the rate of enzyme activity. The enzymatic activity of papain will undo if it will not get exposed to heat.